wanted to record this to share an experience that I had a couple of nights ago. It all started with my dad, who sent a picture to our family group message, and it was a picture that Carlos had shared with him of one of Isabella's journal entries. I wanted to read it here. It says, "God has a plan for all of us. His plan for you is to make you happy. His plan can only work if you do what he wants you to do, not what you want to do. He will make you happy. Pray." So I read that, and I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was, very clear understanding of what we believe, and to come from a 10, 11-year-old, and especially in her situation, I thought it was beautiful, right? The one part that really stuck out to me though was the part that says, "His plan for you is to make you happy." I thought, well, sure, of course we want to be happy, but I thought it was a little naive. Of course, coming from her age. Everything should be happy, obviously, but as we know, life's not always sunshine and roses, of course. We have our pains, our struggles, or whatnot. So it's a nice thought, but I thought a little naive, right? So whatever, I went on without my day, or along my day, and funny enough, I found myself thinking about it throughout different times throughout the day. I was thinking about some of the lines that she had wrote, some of the words she used, even the imagery of the pink ink on the paper, right? It was just kind of always in the back of my mind the whole day. Well, it wasn't until that night that the family had gone to sleep. It was kind of late already in the night, and I'm usually up at this time watching TV, playing video games, whatever. But I found myself kind of quiet, just in the living room, no TV on, no noise. I was on my phone, and I happened to go into Facebook. And when I opened Facebook, I saw that Chito had posted, or shared rather, the letter, the picture of the journal entry on Facebook. And so I read it, and I thought, we really need God at this time, obviously, because of what's going on. So, it made me a little sad, obviously. So when I read the entry again, it's funny. I stumbled, or I caught my eye that same piece about God wants you to be happy. And I thought again, yeah, well, it's kind of hard to be happy at a time like this, of course. But in that moment, now I'm not going to say that I had a voice speak to me, or I heard some kind of a message or anything, but the best way I can explain it, I guess, is I had a thought. I had a thought that wasn't necessarily my own, if that makes any sense. And the thought was, well then, what is true happiness? Okay, so at this point, now I'm having a conversation in my own head. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I know what happiness is not. I know happiness is not pain. It's not struggling, suffering. It's not, arguments with the family or financial problems. So I know everything that happiness is not. So I thought and I reflected for a moment on, well, what is true happiness? And the only thing I can really think of from what I've learned, from what I've heard, what I've been told, is heaven. It's a place, it's a heaven with God, is the only place that's absent of pain, of suffering, of sickness, of death, right? You're 100% perfectly happy with God. So when I had that thought and I went through that in my head, I thought, wow, how beautiful. So I reread her entry again, and it says, "His plan for you is to make us happy," but not in the sense that I thought, maybe earthly sunshine and roses, like I said, but more so happy with him in heaven. So it kind of changes what she wrote. And the next part she outlines is not only his goal for us, but the plan to get there. His plan can only work if you do what he wants you to do, not what you want to do. And I thought, again, how beautiful of an understanding that we have to give into God's will and not our own. And, but even still, I thought about that line and I thought, well, sure, we all know this, of course, right? Or we should know. But then why is the world the way that it is still, right? Why can't everyone just do God's will and not do our own? Obviously, because it's difficult, it's hard. And she, funny enough, she addresses that in the very first line of her journal entry as well. How inspired. She says, God has a plan for all of us. So God has a plan for me. God has a plan for you. God has a plan for her. God has a plan for everyone. And not everyone's plan is going to be the same, which completely explains to me why some, are better off than others, maybe. Why some suffer, why some don't, why some get sick, why some have to die. We can't understand these things, but God has an individual plan for each of us, and we have to work on our own plan. But all the plans have the same goal, which is for us to be happy with God one day in heaven. So, as I read this whole thing, it's almost as if it unfolded to me like a movie right in front of my eyes. It's like as soon as I had that thought, I figured out what happiness, what she really meant was to be with God in heaven. She laid out the plan to get there by doing his will. And she even identified that we can't explain sometimes, but we all have different paths to walk in search of God. And I thought, well, geez, I know all this, and I see what she's saying to me. And still hard, of course, right? You want to be down sometimes. You want to, you know, it's hard to follow this. But I thought in my head, okay, well, how can I achieve this now? Now knowing this, how can I move forward? And she's outlined it beautifully with her last word in her last sentence. She said very simply, pray, pray. And I thought to the sermons and the homilies of our pastor at our church, who's always talking about the noise in our lives, the noise of the social media, of TV, of entertainment, politics. I mean, there's just so much going on nowadays that it's hard to focus on any one thing sometimes. And her send-off here is pray, because only in prayer can we really listen to God, can we understand his mission, and that's how we can, you know, make his will happen and not ours, when we focus on him through prayer. So I shared this to my mother, of course, and to some other people, this experience that I had, and I told them that to me, this is not a journal entry. Honestly, this is a living legacy of Isabella's, because she really kind of culminated and had deep understanding of this, you know, the secret of life, of the purpose of us here on earth. That some of us are going to suffer more than others, unfortunately, but that we have to all work to make God's will ours, so that we will one day be, as she is now, perfectly happy in heaven, right? She's achieved that reward of now his plan being happy in heaven, and we can do the same, obviously, through prayer and through an understanding. So, like I told my mom, this was a beautiful thing. I really appreciate you sharing this, and it really opened my eyes a lot, I thought. And it's funny because I also, you know, again, when I first read it, I thought beautiful, of course. Again, maybe a bit naive. And I remember my sister Dee Dee had kind of a similar experience in adoration. She said that she almost heard a voice that says, you know, just wait and see what I'll do now. And to me, this is almost that for me. He said, okay, you think that that's not a realistic plan, that I want you to be happy. And he showed me, yes, it is. And see what I do now. So it all ties in just so perfectly. And I really appreciate kind of this message being shared, because I think it's Isabella lived that. She accomplished that, and this is her doing what Jesus asked. She spread the good news, and I really appreciate that. So I hope it means as much to you as it did to me. And obviously, we wish you the best, and we love you guys, and we're here for you.